No, my microphone doesn't go that far.
Oh my god.
The USB
Wait,
cable
did you
doesn't
just
go that.
bring like the picture back?
Yes, yeah, I had I had the picture with me.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Wow. You know, it feels like in every episode in the beginning of this year, and now a little deja vu. Mike, you're drinking or eating something.
This is
Actually, I have a bag of Cheetos that I want to eat, but the shit gets in
the
my.
crunching.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
crunching
that's
food.
gonna
I
be
mean,
a bit of a problem.
I
mean-
like the thing is I can mute my mic.
I mean, podcasting is thirsty work, so
It is. No, you know what's funny? When I told you guys I grabbed that water, I've yet to quench my thirst. So I'm gonna do that now.
you're not quenched. Not quenched.
All right. So welcome to the show, peeps. It's been some fun times.
It's been all right.
I'm not sure when this episode's going to come down, but I feel like when you hear it, it's still going to be.
It might be relevant.
The man will be relevant, but the story that will be mentioned might not be, and that's less. That's more confusing now, being that Mike doesn't even know what we're talking about.
I really don't.
So if you guys heard a couple of episodes back, the amazing and wonderful Stan Lee passed away, and I talked about him a little bit on a Tangent Friday episode. But as mentioned, I said that we would talk more deeply when the guys get together, and so we're here to talk about
Like butt cheeks.
Gang's all here.
What?
Come together like butt cheeks.
Oh, I was like, what is he talking?
Slap. Assembled a squad like Voltron.
Is the guy been drinking? Like,
No.
are you
That'd be
on the
better,
binge
that'd be good.
again?
I don't know what Tim was talking about.
What is he? Is he Kanye? Is he becoming Kanye? What?
Well, I wish I would be Kanye. Right
I'm
now.
trying to give a nice little talk about Amazing Man.
Antonio ruined it.
He's just screaming out butt cheeks.
Fuck.
No.
So anyway,
Wow.
Take it away.
so as promised, the guys and I are together to talk about the amazing Stanley Leibowitz. I think that was his last name, Leibowitz, or what was his last name?
That was Stanley Lieber.
Lieber, yes, Stanley Lieber. Sorry, Mike's right. So anyway, we're here to talk about the man that changed his name because he feared that no one was going to take a Jew seriously in the world.
In the 30s,
Which made sense.
Yeah.
Which made a lot of sense.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
So, but anyway, yeah. So, oddly enough, a couple of days after the man passes away, this man that I find to be quite entertaining and a friend in the world of liberal politics, whatever. But said probably one of the most ridiculous things you could ever hear a person say, which Bill Maher's comments on Stan Lee, which are dumbfounded. Like, I am so dumbfounded by reading all this because none of it makes sense. I don't know if you guys, Mike, have you heard what Bill Maher?
Yeah, I know that. He's like, oh, what is it? Why is everybody mourning this guy that inspired everyone to, I don't know, read a comic book or
Essentially
watch a
become-
movie?
Yeah, like watch pictures,
Essentially
like watch a bunch
become
of
dumb.
movies.
Yeah. And that, essentially saying that, comics aren't novels, they're not books, they're not the great American, literature. But the big quote out of all of it is like, it's not surprising that a man like Trump would get elected off of a society that is so invested in comic books. And that one left me just going, huh? So perplexed because, to be honest, like comic book sales, not the movies, but comic book sales today aren't that high. Go back to when maybe Bill Maher was a kid, they were at their all-time highs. And yes, they're invested in the movies now. More people are in the comics are more in the zeitgeist when it comes to movies. But like I'm kind of confused by his statements because I don't know. Like more people seem to like comic books back then than they do now. They just like the movies more. I don't get his like and also like downgrading a comic book from like a picture to comparing it to like a child's picture book. It's
It's all silly.
It's not cool, man.
No, he's a fucking idiot for that. To be honest.
Yeah.
No, to be completely honest with you, Peter's right. Comic book sales aren't great. they're pretty bad. Like
Literally, no one buys comics now.
From a guy who used to work for a comic book company, I've done research. They've told me to like to look up like third party stuff besides the big two in DC and Marvel for sales, like who's selling, and at most products they're still like, at least if you're lucky you get 1,000 for a new book.
Really, that's
why,
it?
Yeah, like, isn't it now? But go
okay,
on.
No, even for the big two. Yeah. Like, that's why there's so many reboots. If you ever wonder why they've made reboots for stories, that's the reason why. Because you're gonna get more sales for them advertising a brand new Superman than you are for continuing a book. That's reader based drops. The only time a book gets really that keeps going is, again, if from the Wednesday Warriors, the guys who come in every Wednesday to fucking purchase the new book, or we still buy them, and it sucks.
It's a bit confusing though, because like, I don't know why, but digital sales don't count in with the total sales.
It's only physical copies.
So physical copies is what they look at. So technically,
it's like music.
Oh, it is like music?
It's like music, where music sales used to not really count.
Digital music sales didn't count. Well, now, but so the comics has yet to, like, for some reason, they don't count their digital sales, which is probably where they're making a lot more money on. But yeah, like, no one's really buying the physical. So like, yeah, if a comic book sells 250,000 copies this day, that means it's a freaking success story. And like back in the freaking 80s, that's like, those are the mediocre numbers. That's
minor. That's so small. That's it. So only 250,000 people will purchase a physical comic book.
And that's if like if the comic book is a success. Like Antonio said, like on average, it's about 1,000, 2,000 a book. It. Yeah.
Jesus, that's terrible. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, and then it's crazy. They're dying, and that's why so many shops are closing and so many niche ones are opening up because they're all becoming thinky. Like GameStop
franchise. I mean, there's so many comics. Like, you really think about it. Like, if you go to like Forbidden Planet, there's just so many.
Well, yeah. The other thing is the problem with comic books is that there are so many. There's so many stories, and they come out every Wednesday that it's like kind of hard to follow.
I didn't know that. Is that when they release a release date for comic books?
Wednesday. Yeah, every Wednesday. Some stories are monthly. Some stories are weekly.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I know we could talk about comics all day.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's not the real reason for this.
Talk about the man that kind of like, in a sense, this man he made you feel, because I mean, none of us were alive during his amazing run as a writer. None of us were.
When did he stop writing, Stanley?
Well, he had about a 10 to 12 year run at Marvel, and then he just kind of like stopped. So like the great characters that we know and love came out of his head in 10 years. Like it is probably considered. I've heard someone say this. Like some of the greatest.
Jack Kirby, bro.
Yeah, Kirby, and then you don't forget about Steve Ditko too. Like, he had this like amazing art explosion in his head for 10 years. Obviously you have Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, then you have Black Panther, like basically every character you could think of in the cinematic universe that's being used, he basically came up with it on his own, with the help of
creation.
Some people.
He made Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, yes. And that's
that's
creation,
right?
That's his brainchild.
That is probably his most well-known.
Him and the Fantastic Four are his like go-to when you think of Marvel superheroes. Stanley created the first group team within the Fantastic Four, and then he created the most popular superhero character of all time in Spider-Man.
Do you know the story behind how he got to writing Fantastic Four? It's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. It's actually heartwarming. His wife. So Stanley was at the time working for Time. I think they were called Timely Comics.
Timely Comics.
And he was kind of being like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not doing what I want to do, whatever. And his wife was like, listen, do one thing for yourself. Do the thing that you want to do. And he was like, all right, I'll think about it. And this next thing that he came out with was the Fantastic Four. And that literally exploded with the Marvel universe that we know today. It all started because his wife was just like, you know what? Do what you want. Don't do what they're telling you to make. Just do what you want. And he fucking did that. And then from there on out, it was just whatever came out of his head. Like, I wish I could have a list of all Stan Lee creations. See if I could come up with it. Every Stan Lee character. I'm sure there's way too many.
Oh, there's a shit ton, man. Like, there's a shit ton.
So, like, I mean, obviously, right off the bat, you have Ant-Man. I'm just gonna name like the big ones. So you got Hulk, Ant-Man, Spider-Man. Oh, there's
basically all of the Avengers, original Avengers.
Yeah, right? Dormammu, Abomination. So many characters, man. It is insane. I'm looking at this Wikipedia thing, and I can't even read all this. I'm sorry. I'm not. Fuck it. I'll be here for an hour. It's a lot of names.
Link it.
Yeah, it's a lot of names. So I'll totally do that for you guys. Yeah, nuts. And then to think that this man then had to, like, wasn't it like he had to fight for his rights or something at some point down the line? He also had like a really bad relationship with Marvel for a little bit because they didn't want him involved. And then the 90s, when they started making these movies, late 90s, they were like, hey, you want to be in some cameos? And he wasn't in the Blades, which is so weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he created Blade. Did he?
I don't think so.
I don't know, but like,
I don't think so. I don't think that's his brainchild, to be honest.
I'm gonna look that up. Blade.
It's crazy. He was working at Timely since 1939. That's when he started. Isn't that crazy?
And didn't he? Around what time did he make Captain America? That was
the 40s.
Yeah, that was
Captain
the 40s.
America started. Yeah. World War II.
Yeah. So it's all the Marvel stuff though. Like, it all started with the Fantastic Four. So that was in 62, I think, or 60 something, and that all started there with obviously. Then Spider-Man was very, very right after that. Like he was in Fantastic Four number 16, I think was his. Tony, do you know his first appearance?
Who, Spider-Man?
Yeah.
It was the Fantastic. It's a Fantastic. Yeah.
15.
It was a 14 or 15.
15. There we go. Amazing Fantasy number 15.
Amazing Fantasy 15.
August 1962. Excelsior. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna miss that.
Excelsior.
That I'm gonna miss.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I mentioned it to the fans the other day, and I've linked it, and I'm not sure if they've seen it. And if you haven't, please go check it out. And Antonio and Mike, you should definitely check it out too. It's really long. It's his podcast, but Kevin Smith knew Stan Lee very well. They were basically best friends. Stan Lee even went as far to say Kevin was like a son to him.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and so Kevin did a big eulogy thing with Mark Bernardin on their Fat Man Beyond show, and so he talked about his whole history and every single encounter with him. And each and every one of them was like beautiful and warm, and it's definitely a must watch or listen because it's on YouTube, so there's film of it, and then there's also like the podcast version. So I definitely encourage both of you and everyone else to check that out because it's fantastic. So yeah, so like I don't know, your experience with Stan Lee and my experience with Stan Lee, it's probably about the same in comparison, but like we never knew really what he was like prior to the cameos, really, unless we hear stories about what he was like. But like your first introduction to him was what movie? Do you guys remember?
I think. It's a good question, actually.
It would have to be Spider-Man.
Probably a Spider-Man.
It would have to be his iconic. It would have to be his iconic Spider-Man.
Might be Iron Man, but I don't know. Yeah, probably Spider-Man. We just don't recognize. Like, I didn't really recognize him until I started getting more into the MCU. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it would be Spider-Man then. 'Cause I saw those movies in theaters.
So I have all of his cameos here obviously seen. I've obviously seen all of his cameos, except for like the original Hulk TV show.
Oh, I used to watch those. Too.
Never.
I didn't know he was in that. Oh yeah, he was.
He's sitting. He's a jury member, and he's just sitting there. And,
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that cameo.
But I never saw it as a kid. But obviously I saw X-Men, so I knew his cameo was there. But I didn't know who he was because they didn't point it out. Like he didn't really talk either. The X-Men one, he was a hot dog vendor on a beach. Then his next one was Spider-Man in 2002, but he saves a little girl from falling debris, but you don't, unless you know who he is, you don't know who he is. But my favorite Stan Lee cameo probably of all time, I'm not too sure yet because I've never really sat down to rank them or anything, comes in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
I know that one, yeah.
That's the one he talks to him.
One man can make all the difference in the world.
And that is the best quote. Yeah. He goes, yeah, I guess one person can make a difference. And it's like, as a kid, I'm sitting there going like, all right, it's not making an impression on me, really. But I guess it did because it's probably my favorite. But I didn't know who that man was. I felt so dumb. 2007, because I had never seen. I didn't see Mallrats yet, and I didn't really know.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was in Mallrats.
And he has a big role in Mallrats.
And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, he has and the story behind that's pretty funny. The story he tells is that he talks about a woman that got away. Yeah. And in real life, he was like, why would I say this shit? And Kevin was like, well, it's just that it fits the movie or whatever. And he's like, well, I'll do it if you change this because my wife wouldn't be happy with me because no one ever got away. She was the one that I got. Right. And so he's like, if you change, so that's why later in the movie he comes back to him and he's like, hey, all that stuff I said to you, it was bullshit. I was lying. Yeah. So, and that says a lot about a guy, to be like, no, my wife's gonna be mad at me. Yeah. It's a movie.
It's true.
It's a movie.
I mean, times were different back then.
No. Of course, and that's the other thing to know that they were together for like 60 something years, or 70. I don't know how long they were married.
Yeah.
But like,
I was reading according to Wikipedia. See here, his wife was already married when he met her. She was married to some American serviceman, Sanford Dorf Weiss, whom she had only known for 24 hours prior to their marriage in 1943. And then it says that she was growing bored with her marriage, so she was set up on a blind date with Stan Lee by another model. And then, Stan Lee went there. They dated for 2 weeks, and then he proposed, and then she got a divorce.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. It's going to Wikipedia, yeah.
Wow. See, I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah.
Probably the most touching story I heard Kevin talk about. He tells it obviously much better than I'm going to. But they were doing a legacy piece for Stan in ultra 10, 8K, 12K, whatever the hell the video was being shot in. It's not supposed to come out for years because they don't have the means to show it to
actually show
consumers. Right. So it's supposed to be coming out way down the line. It's like 360 VR. No, it was some it's some fan-based company that does things with in the world of comics. I can't remember their names. He mentions it anyway. So they were like, we want you to interview Stan because you know him very well, whatever. So he goes to the house. This was like about a year or two ago. Stan was 94, 95 at that time, and he died at 95. So it was really recent. And so anyway, so he's sitting down, whatever, they're talking, and Kevin mentions a lot that Stan Lee was a character that Stanley Lieber created. He put on the smiley business face, and he played his part to making people love and and love his products. It makes sense. Not that he was a mean man, and it's just he played face, which is what you do. But anyway, so at this part of the interview, Kevin expected them to go like, well, you know, he's going to talk about Fantastic Four and talk about it the same way he's talked about it in X amount of interviews, right? And his wife was going to say the same thing that she said in so many interviews. And she starts doing that, but then all of a sudden she stops and starts to break down and starts crying. And she goes, she's like, it's Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And it's always about that. You guys will never know the real writings that he does. And he's written me so many beautiful poems and fantastic work that you guys will never see because all you ask about is Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And it's like, and Kevin says that Sam is sitting there just focused on his wife. And he started getting a little like teary-eyed too. It was beautiful, apparently.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
it's like, and I'm sure they'll release his stuff. Because they always do when someone dies. They never respect the fact that it needs to be private. I'm sure we'll see it one day, but I can only imagine. Like, he was a prolific comic book writer. Imagine how he wrote about his wife that he loved so much.
It's true.
This man he's like Fred Rogers. Like, you got these men of great humanity. And like they're so humble and so near the word perfection, you know, whatever. He's kind of one of those people. He's like one of those you never hear a bad story about him. Probably the only negative story you hear about Stanley is that, you know, he fought hard for his work and he possibly, you know, he tweaked people's ideas, but that happened.
It's like show business
in comics. Yeah, it happened in show business. It happens in comics. It's nothing new. Doesn't mean he's a dick.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's a mean guy.
Of course not.
So like you don't hear negative about him, and then that whole story that you shared, Antonio, about that person that was like he sexually harassed me like a year ago. You remember that thing you shared?
Yeah.
I read about that nurse or something like that. Who knows if that's even true?
Well, one, there's that. Two, yeah, like maybe that article was totally BS. Two, is it even true that it, you know, yeah, whatever. But like, I don't want to say like give the guy leeway here, but he's 95. You don't know what the fuck he's going through in his head.
We didn't know like how.
Maybe
At the end, was he all there? I mean, he was doing these cameos. I mean, he must have been.
well, most of those he shot at one point.
One
Like
point, yeah,
the
he
last
shot it
couple
all
of
the way.
movies he shot at one point, and there's still more.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you know, there's still more,
Interesting.
and he even has one. Apparently, he has one in Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, really?
In the second
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So, like,
awesome.
you know, apparently, remember we've spoke about it on the podcast. He had a rough last year.
Yeah,
You know,
he did.
people were trying to possibly steal his money and do things to him that we don't know because we weren't there. But like from the stories we heard, but things weren't going well.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was losing his hearing like crazy, obviously, and you know who knows his vision. So like, I'm not condoning possibly anything that happened if it happened, but he was 95. You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he was. For all we know, he had moments of being like a child again, because you know, possibly Alzheimer's kicks in. You know, you don't know. Like,
true.
you don't.
It's true. You really don't know.
And it's sad that like it had to. It's sad that you get to a certain age. Yeah, ooh, I made it to 95, but it's like at what cost sometimes.
Yeah, that's also true. To
Yeah.
what really like quality of life do you have when you get that old?
Yeah. That's
Get that heat coming.
Christ.
It's loud.
Yeah. So,
Get that steam heat.
what about you guys? Like, what are your favorite Stanley moments or cameos? Because like he had some great cameos.
Yeah, no, a lot of the one that like gets played a lot is the Tony Stank one. And like all
Yeah.
the tribute videos.
The
that-
FedEx. Yeah, he was doing the FedEx guy.
My second favorite, is in Deadpool.
Oh, he's at the strip club. He's the strip
Yeah.
club
Oh
guy.
yeah, yeah, he's the fucking yeah.
The DJ? Isn't he the DJ at the
He's
strip
the
club?
DJ. the
He's a
DJ,
DJ. He goes and says, "Give it up for chastity" or something like that.
Oh, it's fun.
And he's just sitting there and he's like, you know, doing his shit as a DJ.
That's really funny. Yeah. I like that
Probably
one,
the
too.
most choreographed though one, and I've never really seen the movie, but I've seen clips of the scene is when is in The Amazing Spider-Man with Spider-Man Lizard in the library.
Oh yeah, that one was fun.
Mike, have you seen this one?
I don't think so.
So like Stanley's putting books away, and he's being a librarian, and like Spider-Man and Lizard are kicking each other's ass behind him in the library, and he's just like enjoying his music with headphones on, and he's bopping to the music, and he has no idea what's going on in the room behind him.
There's one cameo I like, the Age of Ultron one, when he's at the party. Tony, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude! If I'm gonna ever rank these, that might be my number one now.
And he gets drunk. He's with the other like World War II veterans, and he gets like drunk with Thor.
Yeah, because Thor's like, this has been aged for 1,000 years, or whatever he says, and then he's like, give it to me. Nothing's gonna mess with me, or whatever. That one's great.
Okay.
Oh, that one's great. I'm trying to think of other ones. I have a list here, but I don't want to really read. This is all reading. The X-Men ones are decent. Like I like it doesn't. It's not really anything, but I think it's in the last. Is this the last stand? Yeah, the last stand. He's the water hose, and the water's just going up, and he's just holding it. It's like meaningless, really, but it's memorable. Like you remember the water coming out of the water hose on him. But there's one that I think him and his wife are in.
I think it's that one.
Wait, no, let me see. No, it's X-Men Apocalypse. He's with his wife. He's hugging his wife because of the nuclear weapons that are being launched. Yeah, he's with his wife, Joan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that shit movie that was. And then Deadpool 2.
He's just a neural on the wall. He didn't have a physical cameo in Deadpool 2.
Oh, I'm reading that. Yeah. I want to look at, I forgot what he looked like. Let me see. Deadpool 2. Stan Lee. Okay. No, but isn't he in the intro though?
I don't think so. Or was he?
Well, his Deadpool 2 cameo was it was like the trailer.
It was in the trailer. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, I guess that counts.
Really?
Yeah, that counts. Yeah.
Yeah. It says it right here. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Nice suit is what he said to Deadpool. Yeah. And then he told them, "Zip it, Stanley." He told him, "Shut the fuck up." Yeah. That was. Oh my god. Yeah, that was like that little short film that they showed before Logan. That's what they call it here, a short film, because it actually had a name. It's called No Good Deed.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah, because I kept getting confused. I was like, wait, Deadpool. He doesn't have. Yeah, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
He's also in like he's in the Spider-Man video game, the new one that just came out. He has a cameo.
Oh my god, we were talking about the game. I need to make sure I see that. But I'll wait till I play the game though. Someone was telling me he looks photorealistic. Like it's beyond.
He does. Yeah, he does.
That looks cool. That's cool. I like that they did that.
I can't wait to see it.
Like I heard that game is like very true to like source material. Like everything they've done, I guess like MCU wise, like New York is kind of like how it is in the movies. Like there's the Wakandan embassy, and then there's the Doctor Strange Sanctum and the Avengers Tower, and
That's nice.
There's some things from the Netflix series, like I think there's some buildings from Daredevil and Jessica Jones. So like it's like really very faithful to the source material.
Interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but that's why I've just been reading and watching on like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. I know. Back to like Stan. Like it's funny because as a kid, I was more comic book wise. I was more DC oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had my handful of Marvel comics, don't get me wrong. But obviously those weren't written by Stan. And so I don't know if I've ever read a Stan Lee Marvel comic.
Really?
I don't.
You don't think? They're be old now, right? Stanley Marvel.
He stopped writing in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be a late 60s comic. Well, early 60s comic.
That's my point. Like I've never, not even on like Comixology have I picked one up. So like I really...
I mean, I feel to be honest, I feel like DC characters, like DC has more characters that everybody knows, I think, At least when we were growing
Think
up,
so?
compared to now.
Well, I loved what he. Why I love Marvel more than DC, and not it has nothing to do with the movies. Like literally, none of these movies could exist, and I'll still love Marvel over DC. Is because the character was set in the real. Like he was never a god. The character was never meant to be someone that we couldn't relate to. Yes, there are characters that like that, but those characters weren't created by Stan Lee. You know,
Hmm.
Right.
there
Right.
are characters that are out there that are very, godly or whatever. But the ones that every single character created by Stan Lee is someone that something bad happened to, or
Oh
they
yeah.
so happened to
Yeah.
be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Peter Parker's a kid from Queens. Like Hulk is a scientist, a fucking dude that you know. Well, I forgot the original. What's I forget whatever Hulk's
Gamma
original.
radiation.
Yeah,
Gamma
right. So
radiation.
yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted to.
right,
It was like another super soldier serum thing.
right. And then Captain America, same thing. Wrong, kind of wrong place, the wrong time type of thing. Um, all these characters are people that are essentially you and I, and that's
Right.
the power of his storytelling. And it's more or less held true for decades till now, like even now. Murdoch, he's blind,
Yeah.
and he got his superpower because he has enhanced hearing now because he's blind, which is slightly true for people that are blind. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility. Um, and he also got a little contamination, but it's these are all real people. Superman's not a real person. He can never be real. Like
Yeah.
there literally can never be a Superman in our
I
real
think what you're
lives.
saying is that the Marvel heroes are more flawed. Like they're more relatable because they have like flaws. While like
Yeah.
Superman, Batman, and more DC
Right.
characters are more like they're like
Well.
they're like well rounded.
I wouldn't say they're
Well.
well rounded. They also have their flaws, obviously. Batman clearly has many flaws. He's not a godly character, but
Yeah,
he also has billions of dollars. Um,
it's true. He's like a
Granted,
super
Iron Man
villain.
does too, but Iron Man is an exception. I'll give him he's that exception. Thor is also one of those exceptions. Like he's a god.
He's a god. Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain America. Well, Captain America's a super soldier. I mean,
But
yeah, 100 years old.
but how'd he get there? Is my point. Like he's a kid that couldn't get in.
It's
He
true.
got denied,
Yeah.
and oh, I could get in now. Cool, I'll do it. Whatever. But it's that whole idea there. I mean, most DC like the if you put up the characters face to face, compare them, you could probably relate day to day to a Marvel character from Stan Lee than you can from maybe any other creation from DC. So it's that is why I always loved Marvel's landscape of characters, mainly obviously the ones he created. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. Like shit goes wrong, but they are real people. I mean, well, not real people, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah. Because the oh sorry, but the whole notion is that Marvel is everyday people who got powers,
yeah.
right, and are dealing with it. The mantra of DC is gods among us, besides Batman and Batman's like stuff. But
In Flash,
they-
sure.
yeah, I mean, like Golden Age Batman, the argument is give him enough prep time and he can defeat anybody, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
More or less.
that-
Yeah.
So it was like overpowered as fuck. But that every story that came out of like Marvel and Stan Lee's like iteration and run at Marvel was always unfortunate people doing good, right? Like Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
they were all basically scientists who went into space and got hit by a meteorite and almost all died, but they got powers
Yep.
and are dealing with it. Spider-Man is a teenage kid who was no, not even, he was a teenage kid. He was in high school, got bit by a radioactive spider. He was bullied. He was all this other stuff. But now with these powers, he can't overabuse it because he saw his Uncle Ben die in front of him, right?
Mhm.
When he could have done something. Captain America was a skinny kid from Brooklyn who wanted to stop a war, but was told, no, you can't do anything, right?
Right.
Like, and then he lost his best friend, years later, obviously, whatever. But and then he got frozen, and now he's displaced out of time, right? Like that's his whole thing. Iron Man, got captured and has PTSD and deals with drugs for a lot of time, even though he's a billionaire, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, like
They all
these
have flaws, yeah.
And
real.
realistic human, it's the humanistic quality that are in these characters. You don't really find in most of the DC characters. Not saying it's not there, but like you can't really relate to Iron Man, obviously, but I think if you're a druggie, yeah, you can.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that was his whole idea. I don't. Yeah, I think that's what he was aiming for, was to write that type of story, those relatable characters. He succeeded because clearly it's still working. It's clearly something that everybody wants to see
Mhm.
on a daily, and that goes to show you why the Marvel Cinematic Universe works probably better than maybe the DCEU, and for many other reasons, but one of them being that I could go to a movie theater going like, "Oh, I'm from Queens, or I'm from Brooklyn, or I'm from a real earthbound place," and I could go, "Oh, I know situations like that, and I know what it's like to do X, Y, Z, or whatever, and maybe one day I could do those things and save the world in my own way."
Right.
When I'm not a person from a planet somewhere else or whatever. So like Thanos was not created by Stan Lee. He would never have created someone like a Thanos. Like that wasn't probably in
Right.
his mind. He would never like why would I create something like that?
Thanos is so out there, you know.
Right. Yeah. And most Marvel, most Marvel villains and stuff like that are because those came after him, really. But like, think about all the Spider-Man villains he created. These are guys that are like that just got greedy and hungry and wanted to conquer New York City or whatever, and they got powerful in their own ways, and it's like something it's like they're like evil Donald Trumps or something. I don't know, like billionaire
Oh
guys
my
that just want
gosh.
to. And so I mean,
I mean,
obviously,
yeah, like Wilson Fisk and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's literally the kingpin. Like you know,
Evil businessman. That's
yeah.
been around for a while, you know. That
Well, no,
the
no, I
cliche.
know he didn't create that, or maybe he did. No, I know he didn't. I'm just kidding. But like he used that to his advantage. Hammerhead. You guys got like guys like Lizard and stuff. Guys that are just they want to one up their opponent, and so they do these crazy things, and they get all these like the Sandman
Right.
powers like that. Bad things going for the right people or the wrong people, whatever. Like it's just the everyman was his idea, and so I respect him for that. And it brought so much joy to so many people's lives, and it's continuing to do that. So clearly the formula works,
Hmm.
and it doesn't seem like it's gonna stop. So
No, not anytime soon. You
yeah,
know, these are iconic characters. You just can't get rid of them now.
Yeah, I think Marvel has definitely surpassed DC. I think now because the cinematic universe in terms of like the characters, like the household name of the characters.
Um, I will say, movie wise, yes. Comic book wise, no.
Yeah,
DC.
that's a
Yeah,
great.
I mean, hands down.
in this day and age, right now, if we're speaking 2018, I feel like personally DC has better comic book stories out right now than Marvel has in the past few years.
Yeah,
But that's just me. You know,
and also like hands down the number. They have the two most famous comic book characters of all time. I mean, you have Batman and you have Superman.
yeah,
Superman probably being number one, of course, and then
Yeah,
Batman being number
everyone
two.
knows Superman
So,
yeah.
I mean, they got
and
that going
Batman.
for them. you know, they just need to fix their other nonsense in the movie world, and maybe they're doing that real soon. Anyway, but I feel like this has been an interesting little talk about Stanny,
Stupid superheroes.
Stanley. Um, I just hope people realize the impact he made on the world of comics, and it's pretty clear most people are aware of that.
Well, except for Bill Maher, apparently. Fucking dickhead.
Except for Bill Maher. Ah, what a guy! What an interesting
Christ.
man. And I hope he doesn't talk anymore. Actually, he did say a rebuttal. He goes, "Everybody's freaking out over this. Just proves my point." Which is another dick thing to say, but what can you do? Once a dick, always a dick.
Pretty much, honestly.
Yeah,
In
no.
this situation, I mean, I got, no
Yeah.
problems with the guy. I really don't care for him. But, like, the man literally just passed away. Like, let him rest before you say some dumb shit like that.
Yeah, it's weird. And I watch his show, and he does say some stupid stuff on the show sometimes, and I don't agree with obviously everything he says. But it's like I would not have expected him saying this. But then I'm not
Right.
surprised because he says some stupid shit though. But I didn't think he would have though. I didn't see it. I didn't see it coming. But anyway, this has been Facts Not Included, the podcast. There's I don't know, so many interesting things that we've been talking about on the
In
shows.
the world today.
So I hope you guys do check out previous episodes and, of course, future episodes. Just don't watch the old ones or listen to the old ones. And so, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Check us out on the social medias, of course. We got Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. And check us out on those podcast places. We're getting. I know. Listen, hey, you British people out there, UK people, I love you. You guys are apparently listening to us like crazy. It's interesting that we're getting a footing in the UK. Obviously, in the United States, you guys like us here too. We love that, of course. But it's
You
cool.
better like us. This is where we're from. So
Exactly. This is an American
we don't get home court
podcast.
advantage.
We just got
we're screwed.
2 people
Team.
unsubscribed right there. No. So
I'll find you. I'll be like Childish Gambino. I'll find you.
I could find
You're
you.
not better than me.
So keep up with the good work, people of the UK. And keep it up, and wherever else you're listening to. I know we got some people in India, and where else? I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. But yeah, keep us in your thoughts. Keep listening. Keep watching. And I say watching, and I mean that because like there is video content coming sometime. I can't promise when. It's not going to be all the time, but it's coming.
It'll come soon enough.
So it's there. It's probably there right now. As I speak, I don't know when this is coming out, so it's probably there. It's been there for 5 years,
Oh, jeez.
even though we've only been around for 2. But anyway, it's been fun. Peace out. Bye-bye.